Wait, who wants to do the introduction?
You do the introduction to your channel.
But I thought, okay. I wasn't too sure whose channel it was going to be on.
Yours. Definitely yours. It's your video.
Do you know what my content on your channel like?
I don't mind. I'm expecting to get a mention, at the very least.
Well, so you're right there. Right, hello everyone.
The table.
This is going well. We're
Yeah.
totally going to make the 5 minutes.
No.
Right, hello everyone, I'm Hibblejaybob, and last Sunday my flight ended in absolute disaster.
50, 40, 20, 10.
So I am here today with Tarek Merryface, who is
A flight instructor.
indeed a flight instructor.
I run the channel Merryface Aviation.
Yes,
Where I talk about these kind of things. Except for real planes, not flight simulator planes.
yes,
But I think we can apply that to this.
yeah. So one of Tarek's series is called Mayday Talk, in which he discusses planes that have had various emergencies, what the pilots did right, what the pilots did wrong, and all that noise. However, I managed to have an emergency in Flight Simulator, which I completely botched. Everybody lived, but it was terrible.
Yeah. They lived, you know. If you can walk away from the landing, it's a good landing. If you can re-rent the plane, it's an excellent landing.
Yes.
So there you go.
From FS Passengers, I only had to pay $7 to repair it.
Only $7.
$7.
That's pretty good. Even for FS passengers, that's pretty good.
Pretty good.
That's a pretty decent deal. Right. So we're gonna start. I'd like to start with like kind of through stuff I saw, like your takeoff. I thought it was quite interesting. Your takeoff.
The takeoff was bad.
It was interesting. I enjoyed it. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know how not to do a crosswind takeoff, watch this video. Catchy. I don't know where you found that.
Oh my, a free play, good play.
But nice.
Right, hello everyone,
Let's
and
keep
welcome
talking.
back to
Yes,
FSX.
so
I know it's
You
been a
kind
while,
of
but
mislead
back.
the
So
viewers
since,
into thinking you're going to fly the
since
jet.
I,
Nope.
Passengers are scared because of the weather.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, you get sort of drizzle and they get scared because of the weather.
Yeah, this is
Even
true.
if you're in a 737 or something,
Yeah.
you get scared because of the weather. But in this case, I think they've got good reason to be scared.
Yeah, but they don't know what's about to happen to them. Well, I suppose seeing it's your favourite thing, about my flight, I'll let you talk through this.
Well, let's see. So you're lining up runway 11, and the wind's coming from 170, 28 gusting, 40. Right, so you have about 30 knots-ish of crosswind there.
A lot of
This is quite funny because straight away you can tell how you're not putting in the wind corrections. You need the aileron into wind. That's not happening, as you can see.
Yeah,
And then no correction with the ailerons and rudder pedals.
You see, this is the thing, because I was using rudder, but I was always told that you never ever use ailerons on takeoff, on the takeoff roll, otherwise you'll be dead.
No, you use ailerons on the takeoff roll. You put ailerons into the wind
Yeah.
to keep control so that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then as you rotate, you bring the ailerons to neutral and you increase the rudder pressure towards the wind. That's what a crosswind sort of takeoff actually is.
Yeah, because I mean, I was using rudder, but admittedly, I've not done that much flight sim flying, so my skills with the rudder are pretty lacking. But no, I didn't use any ailerons, because I was always told that you should never use ailerons.
Oh, but as you can see, you need to use them sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I was told that it's like, if you do, it's just instant death.
Nah, I don't know who told you that. I guess like when you're first starting flying and you don't have any crosswinds, you know, you teach don't use ailerons because you don't want them causing a wingtip strike.
Yeah.
But this is the same sort of situation. You don't really want to.
No,
You don't want to get a wingtip strike, and in that
by
case,
not using.
yeah. And the thing is, the problem is you were sort of coming off onto one wheel when you weren't actually ready to fly, and so you could have actually sort of put nose down or hit the wing on the runway. So
This is
not great.
So before we get into the emergency thing proper that happened, I of course have my checklist of everything I screwed up.
Right.
Basically, the two things prior to things going terminal was that I didn't check the instruments. So after takeoff, when I put it on autopilot, should have just done a sweep, make sure all the engine instrumentation is in the green. Most importantly, to make sure. Well, most importantly, with hindsight, to make sure all the oil statistics were all fine. I didn't do that, and every kind of 5 to 10 minutes, according to the sim checklist for this aircraft, you should also just periodically check the instruments. I was distracted by the fact I was being shouted at by radar contact, and so I didn't check the instruments during the flight. That would have helped me notice it earlier.
It's yelling at you right now.
No, I think that's me doing.
Oh, where it's normal turns. Like, no. Oh, you're off the track. Turn this heading. Correct the track. Rawr.
Oh no, that's good. That wasn't shouting at me. Yeah, but that was something that I fixed by turning the correct thing.
Yeah.
But yes, so I didn't check any of the instrumentations, which would have given me more warning of an impending thing.
Yeah. I mean, the original premise that we were saying is a bird strike, right? And so, like, if you're gonna have a bird strike in a plane like that, heck, bird strikes down to set like an A320 in the Hudson River, right? So, like, you would have realized straight away because the engine, have blood and guts everywhere.
Yeah.
But what I'd say is, like,
it's off the map. You can.
So that's the thing. You got a realism issue there because obviously you're not gonna have the pointer off the map. You would have on the G1000 oil pressure warning.
Yeah.
It would definitely pop up,
which there wasn't.
Which it didn't.
Yeah.
So then you do a Frida check, fuel, radio, engines, and direction, altitude, and at engines. You would have seen that the pointer has disappeared. And then you would have realized it's actually on the map, right? The pointer's gone. Where is it? Well, it's on the map. So the oil pressure is increasingly high. So, usually that's a sign of oil leak. So, the engine's going to seize up at some point. But yeah, so the premise is ridiculous. But the symptoms were there. And eventually failed. You just clearly level 50 there. Hello. Hi, that's my girlfriend Zita.
Okay, so this is the point where the engines failed. So I was in the middle of dealing with a menu because I was trying to get default ATC up because I just shut down radar contact.
Okay.
So that noise, the beeping, that is me taking off autopilot, which I did straight away because I didn't want it to.
Yeah, that's what you should do. Autopilot off straight away.
Now you shouted at me for this. Basically, what I'm trying to do now is just going through various checks of restarting the engine.
Yeah.
So I
Mayday.
turned, declared an emergency when I realized the engine wasn't starting, but turned the key to try and get the engine going again. But apparently, you don't need to do that.
No, it's not that you don't need to; that you shouldn't. Right? You can burn out the starter that way. And I mean, what the starter does is it turns the prop, right? So it's sort of you got the starter that goes into the crankshaft and spins it, and that sort of turns the prop, which turns the pistons, which ignites with the magnetos and ignite the spark plugs, and the prop's already doing that, and it's already spinning or windmilling. So like normally, and even the default planes will simulate that.
Yeah.
Right. So if you turn off, you put the mags on off, or you reduce mixture or something on the default planes, and the engine shuts off, and then you put mixture full rich and mags on both, not even starter, and you accelerate enough for the windmill prop, like even the default Cessna 172 will start up again. Yeah. Which is actually something quite basic in that sense.
So I've said it before, I'm obviously not a real world pilot, so I wouldn't know that. Back when I did a lot of my simming stuff, I did jetliners, so for that you need to actually activate the start button, so I assumed it was the same process for the props. Obviously it's not.
Yeah, that's a little different.
Yeah.
As for the airliners, I'm not too familiar with jet engines. It depends on the jet engine, but like obviously on the ground you need to start it.
It's basically this kind of the same process. Is basically you've got the starter which starts the engine windmilling, and then you put the fuel cutoff to on, and then it'll
inject the fuel. But I mean, when I did sort of like the MCC stuff, you do turn on sort of continuous ignition, basically a continuous spark plug going on or something of the sorts. So here, right there you go.
Okay, well,
so what? So you're still over water here, right?
Yeah.
And you start turning into the wind. So I see you're turning like towards the airports.
Yes. So basically, what happened here was I was right in the middle between Campbelltown Airport and my emergency airport, Gia, and obviously I was in clouds when the engine failed. So I made a split-second decision, possibly the wrong decision, that basically, because I was in clouds and the cloud level could be all the way to the ground, and Gia is a small grass runway with obviously no lights, that I didn't want to risk trying to get there and then not being able to like find a space to land.
Yeah.
So without thinking, I turned to go back to Machrihanish, and it's only after a few seconds of going that way that I'm realizing, crap, I'm flying into, I think it's like a 36 knot, 37 knot headwind.
So the thing is, at this point, your priority should have been to go over land, right?
Yes.
And now, so which, you're oversea here, and then also, for the clouds, you should have checked the weather, right? Especially in this sort of extreme weather condition. Broken at 700 feet. It's right there on your ATIS. So you should have, 700 feet. If you're descending at, I think it would be like 500 feet per minute, 600 feet per minute. That kind of gives you, a minute or so. So a minute to, it's not a lot, but a minute's more than enough to sort of pick a field and land.
So actually, on that topic, what basically my process was to get over land, and basically do that, and then I realized with the headwind that I might struggle for distance.
Yeah.
So I turned to go direct.
Yeah.
Which is slightly away from land, which is obviously a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
And then comes the kind of crushing realization.
Yeah. So here, basically, that's when you realize you start turning now.
Yeah.
So you kind of realize you're not going to make it. But see, here's the thing: you decide to turn and land here. I think it was.
Yes.
But you decide to turn landing in sort of that direction, which is a complete crosswind again. Right. So really, when emergency landing, you do.
I did use the cross. I'll get into it when we get slightly further on. But I did actually use the crosswind intentionally.
Because you see that direction.
Yeah.
That you're flying now. That's the sort of direction you should have landed in.
What I'm doing here is
conserving the battery here.
Well, not really. I'm doing a restart of the electrical systems because a lot of the time one of the more common errors you can get in FS passengers is an electrical issue where one system has a bug and all you need to do is switch it on, switch it off, switch it on again, and then retry the engine. It'll go. So that's what I was trying as my last.
Okay, so basically it wasn't like sort of trying to simulate reality. It was more of sort of the it was more about sort of fixing an FS Pax bug. Here, your airspeed's really low.
Yes, I did realise that. As soon as because we heard the ground proximity warning system, it activated to say 1,000. So at that point, I realised not to do that.
So even here, you could have tried. So where's the wind coming from here? From behind you.
Yeah, kind of.
So you got a tailwind.
Yes.
Tail crosswind. So when you saw that you weren't going to make it, you really should start turning a 90-degree angle immediately, and then turn back into the wind. So now you're just turning, you got a 40 knot tailwind in an off-field landing where you want to be sort of landing as slow as you possibly can. So even if you go to like the stall speed at about, I think it's like 50 knots or so, you'll be going over the ground like 90 knots, which is really fast.
Which was kind of what got me in the end, because we're about to have the thing, so we're 100 knots, and you can see the gyros are failing, which we'll get back to.
40, 20.
So we land going slightly uphill,
and
then I slow down, I lose a lot of speed, and now we've hit the crest. And now we've dipped over there.
So one thing you could have done is start your ground loop.
Yes.
So you put full rudder and brake application to one direction.
I was kind of worried because I was worried about doing what eventually happened, and FSX worked. So
it works. So it is an FSX issue that.
Yeah. So we'll pause that because that was a video. So basically, there was a lot of things I screwed up with in this. Landing in a 40 knot tailwind is definitely not.
Apparently, you only hit the ground at 46 knots, which I think they were just taking your indicated airspeed rather than your because you were really sort of going at like 80 knots there on the ground. I think that more means the point at which the accident occurred. So that was about 4 or 5 seconds after the video stopped. When you sort of flipped,
exactly. So that would have been more of about 6 knots.
So this thing, a bird strike. Okay. All right. So,
But yes, so I will pass my thought. I will give you my thoughts. I've kind of gone through everything that we've done. So to go over the full list of things, I went over the failed to check the instruments. That was before the accident. When the accident, well, not the accident, when the emergency happened and the engine stopped, I, in hindsight, probably should have tried to make it to gear. I would have said because I have the tailwind for that, so it might have carried me a little bit further.
So you're here, so you wanted to make it there
Yeah.
in that place of gear.
And that would have been a straight tailwind.
Yeah, but you see, still don't think you would have made it.
No, probably not.
No. So I think the action of doing a 180-degree turn was actually correct. I
Okay.
think that was a good action. But the issue there is you sort of got the get there-itis kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so you want to get to an airport when it clearly wasn't going to happen. You didn't have the glide distance for that.
And that was something I didn't quite think about.
No.
I didn't think with the headwind. Sorry.
Yeah, so when it comes to single engines, you just you assume it's going to be an off-field landing. And if you find an airport, happy days, right? But good chance it's not going to happen.
Now we had an argument about this next one. Not an argument. We had a discussion about this point. And I don't know about this because obviously I've never flown the real world version of the Diamond.
Yeah.
However, right here, which you can't see because
I'll put the mouse so you can look at it.
yeah,
there you go.
The bright red thing in the center is
This thing here.
in the simulated manual. It is listed as the emergency vacuum. So basically, as we land, and thankfully it didn't affect us too much sooner, but just as we come in to make the emergency landing, you can see the instruments kind of conking out.
Yeah.
The emergency vacuum is basically a battery pack that would have.
Yeah. So it's not actually
It would basically put the vacuum pump back on and done that, but I'm told that's balderdash.
No, yeah. Because first off, the main instrument, the G1000 doesn't work on vacuum pumps. Right? The G1, it just doesn't happen. So it would have worked until you ran out of battery on the main batteries. So that red button actually turns on the standby battery, the emergency battery.
In real life.
Which then powers the artificial horizon, the backup one, which is an electric one, and you should have about 30 minutes of battery on that, which is what it does in reality. But yeah, I mean, just note I've flown the DA42, not the DA40, which is it's a bigger cousin.
Yeah,
I mean the cockpit layout is literally the same. Yeah. I mean, if you didn't pay too close attention to it, you'd think it's the DA42, except for the fact that you got a prop in front of it, right? So,
but it's like the only powered aircraft I've flown is the Grob.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different manufacturer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the Grob Tutor, which is sort of popular choice, especially for the RAF cadets, which is what you did, isn't it?
Yeah. I flew a helicopter, but that's a different thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's way more awesome.
Yes, so we went through this. Basically, the one good thing in my favour is I had, at least after making so many mistakes, I had the foresight to realise I wasn't going to make it to the airport and have identified a field that I could land in.
Yeah.
But what little kind of cookie I get from that, I decided on an approach path that would mean that I would be landing with a tailwind of about 40 knots.
Yeah, so I think the bigger mistake here is not realizing we're going to make the runway, because I mean it's quite clear, to be honest. So you definitely get there-itis. What you should have done is turn straight to go over land, because here you're about 2,000 feet. And you lost about, that distance that you travel in that direction. You could have been over land.
Yeah.
And at 2,000 feet, pointing into the wind, it's sort of where you want to be adjacent to the field that you want to land on, into the wind. And then you go around it, sort of as you do in the PFLs, practice forced landings. And even if you couldn't, as long as you're flying into the wind, then you land into what you can, which would have been ideal. I'd say the final mistake was even the
whole thing was a mistake. Let's not sugarcoat it.
No, but I think the final mistake is you didn't try to ground loop it. Full rudder deflection with a bit of brakes. And so that would have probably saved you from that FSX work, actually.
Yeah, and it was the kind of thing that I was kind of scared of the FSX Borg in the first place that I didn't do it.
I mean, use the aileron as you do that to try and use as much aerodynamics force as possible to sort of keep the three gears on the ground. But, how much that actually works, it depends on sort of how fast you're going and the winds and all that.
Did you know what would have saved me? And they should do this for real aviation safety. An anchor.
An anchor, yeah. It was a tractor beam. You know, a tractor beam, so that, you know, people like you don't get off the runway to begin with. Oh, there goes Aerith again. Turn on the tractor beam.
But I want to go fly.
Yeah. Nah, so let's see what else we got in here.
I've been over everything.
Yeah, I think
this was my thoughts. It was more turn it over to you if you have any other thoughts.
I mean, to be honest, it's just this goes back down to like the basics for PPL stuff. Well, not that basic. I mean, this is after your first solo kind of deal.
Yeah.
Learning how to do PFLs, practice force landing, so choosing your field. Obviously, not very good. I mean, the field itself is not necessarily a bad choice, but in choosing your field, you also need to think about wind direction.
Yes, and that was a critical thing.
Yeah, I mean, it happens to everyone sometimes, but in this case, it's really, really bad. You pick the, you know, in these kind of conditions in particular.
And in the fact it was a 40.
Yeah. I thought this is funny. Like, so it's 100 minimums on a DA40.
100.
This is the kind of thing that's only in the big planes.
Yeah, it is a thing that's only in big planes, as discussed several times in this episode. I am not a real pilot, so I like to have it on because it helps me with situations that I'm not overly familiar with. Yeah. So it helps me with landings, which are something, unless you put hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of practice in, you know, you're not going to be spot on. So that it helps me because I am only casual, but
you know, I quite like sort of like FSX, the FS packs. It's sort of put like the ambulance and the fire the sound, and I think it's really cool because it works really well when you do an emergency landing at an airport. Yeah. But it's really odd when you're doing an off-field landing and they're already there waiting for you. I mean, that's some really like sort of precise. They knew you were gonna mess up. And they knew by how much and where.
Oh no! I was more like I was more thinking you've just got somebody in a police car just looking up, going, oh shit, just driving, doing a U-turn, shit.
So like local county policeman's like, you know, bored out of his wits. Oh, something's happening. It's like, do these even work? It
happened once, and I remember I was watching a program, and it was police program, and the police helicopter was helping out with the car chase, and they finally got the car stopped, and then it was they wanted help. The tower wanted them to help with a Mayday call that had come in about a kind of long distance hot air balloon that had overshot its landing zone by a country. It was supposed to land in the Republic of Ireland, and it made it to just outside of London.
Oh dear!
And because it just got caught in high winds, and they needed to bring it down hard, so it didn't like go into the channel. And they got called in to help that.
Oh, that's so random.
Yeah. So like police vehicles chase. I suppose a helicopter is a bit better than a police car, but police vehicles chasing
a hot air balloon.
broken vehicles.
Yeah, no, SAR are quite good, you know, when you declare an emergency ahead of time. Like, there's one guy with a Cirrus. He was flying sort of like from California to Hawaii, and it's like an SR-22, and he had all these like extra tanks in the back.
I was going to say you would need them.
But basically the fuel selector got jammed, so all the fuel in the back he couldn't use. So he knew about about an hour and a half ahead of time that he was going to ditch. And it's SR-22, so they've got like a cap system, which is like the parachute system. Mm-hmm. And so he declared an emergency well ahead of time, as soon as he realized he wasn't going to be able to use that fuel. And so the SAR, so he's basically calculated how far he'd be able to fly. Mm-hmm. And the SAR helicopter was there waiting for him, and they filmed the guy deploying his parachute and everything. Yeah, and seen that. And so he had his inflatable raft and everything, and he even took the time to take a selfie with his GoPro, which is awesome. And it wasn't even a selfie, I guess, because it was filming it, so it's not really a selfie. So filming himself as he goes down. Yeah, so he's like, oh, hi guys, I'm just crashing into the ocean right now, surrounded by sharks. So he got into his little raft, and then a cruise boat picked him up, and he got a free cruise. So
can't complain.
Working as a job, almost finished his job ferrying the aircraft, and guess you're going to cruise boat. So there you go. Weird stuff. I think we've covered a lot and then some.
Yes, we have. So basically, to summarize this video for everyone, I done goofed.
Yeah, I'll say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Well, Aerith will hopefully learn from this.
Everything.
Yeah, let's hope.
Basically, what happened was I panicked. That's fair to say.
Yeah.
And I made a lot of wrong decisions. I made decisions that seemed correct on the face of it without considering complicating factors such as the wind. And then live to kind of have to deal with those situations. So
I found for you the aircraft flying manual.
Yes.
Which I'm going to send you the link to.
yes,
And have a look at that, because you'll probably have the glide distances on there. And I mean, the thing is, the DA40s, like basically diamond aircraft, they're just giant. They're just like gliders with an engine. You know, so they have some pretty decent glide factors going for them. But yeah, so I mean, with a 40 knot crosswind, you know, and your glide speed is 75 knots. So you're doing 35 knots ground speed, right, facing the wind. Descending at 600 feet per minute, you're not going to go very far, right? So that's something to think about.
So yes, I thought this would be a fun video to make because, like I say, Tarek does this kind of thing for you know, professional pilots, for people that actually know what they're doing, unlike me.
More or less. More or less.
But hopefully you've enjoyed this insight into how not to screw up a landing from me, who screwed up
A landing.
an emergency landing. Yeah, so
Well, it's better to do it in the simulator than in real life.
yes, this is true.
So you're
but,
good. Yeah.
I believe it would be a very long time before somebody would give me a pilot's license.
Yeah. Nah, you'll be alright. Just do the training and you'll be good. And you have all that knowledge so far from FSX. You'll know to fly a flight level 50 instead of altitude 5,000. Yeah. If you want to watch out more of these videos, but with real planes, check out my channel.
Yes.
I'm doing my shameless plug-in. There you go. So check out my channel, Merryface Aviation, on YouTube. Yeah.
Merryface Aviation, yes. If you are too lazy to find all the links that I'll put to various parts of Mayday Talk and his channel, which are in the description below, if you're on my channel homepage, it's also on the right-hand side because of the featured channel thing.
Yep,
so
featured channel.
you've got no excuse being told.
If you like planes, check it out.
Yes, indeed,
Yeah,
indeed.
so-
You do have a lot of good aviation content because as a pilot, that's what you do.
That's what I do. I do mess up sometimes, a lot, as Aerith did today, so I understand what it's like messing up. So I'm not going to go too hard on her. Not now. So there you go.
But yes, that's everything. So thank you very much, Tarek, for joining me in this video, and thank you for watching. I shall see you in the next FSX video. Bye.
See you guys. Bye. Happy flying.